Hey guys, C Squared here. In this video, I'm going to talk about some things that have really worked for me over the years when it comes to keeping guitars in tune. A lot of guitar players have trouble with that for many, many years before they really solve the mystery. And most of these mysteries are very simple, a simple matter of friction on the guitar, and it's easy enough to rectify that problem yourself. With a couple of cheap items here. So I'm going to talk about each one of these things, and I'm going to talk about the regular Strat tremolo and the Gibson tilted headstock, and then I'm going to say a couple things about the locking tremolos as well. So to start with, let's look at what we got here. Cheap stuff that makes a big difference. I've got Vaseline here. And 3-in-1 oil. Those are kind of normal household items for a lot of people. Chapstick. This is powdered graphite that you would use to lubricate a lock. And then pencil lead, which is the same thing, just not powdered, basically. And then this is a commercial product designed to lubricate things on guitars. And then this over here, I've just got a little couple of tools so I can mix up stuff. So first of all, let's talk about what's happening with guitars having trouble staying in tune, and we'll specifically talk about the Strat. Okay, so on a regular Stratocaster, the tremolo, we all love the sound of it, especially the standard tremolo, non-locking tremolo, but there's some trouble in making that stay in tune sometimes, and you got to really realize where that trouble comes from. A lot of times people think it comes from the tuners not being good, but that's almost never the case in my experience. I put locking tuners on this Strat simply because it makes it fast to change strings on a gig. If you break one, it's really easy to put a new string on and be in tune in just very, very short amount of time. But it's not really about whether it stays in tune or not, because I can generally make any Strat tuners work as long as they're not broken. Now, the problem usually comes in with the nut. And what's really happened is when you move the whammy bar, the string is in effect sliding a little bit, or trying to slide a little bit on the nut. And it goes maybe a little bit this way. When you drop the bar, if you pull back, it kind of comes this way. And the problem is that there's a lot of pressure there and potential friction, and if it hangs, then when you pull up and let go, it's going to be flat, and if you push down and then let go, it'll be sharp, just because it doesn't go all the way back to where it belongs. So that is your primary point to be concerned with on a Strat, and on most guitars, really. So the thing that I recommend is that if you're not the kind of person who likes to do a lot of do-it-yourself type stuff, just get some of this stuff, which there's several companies that make it. This happens to be the D'Addario product called Friction Remover. And it's a little syringe that just has a lubricant in it that you can just like pop the string to the side a little bit there, and then take that syringe and just squirt the tiniest little globule of lubricant there, pop the string back on top of it, and you would do this to all of them. I'm not going to do it now, but you could do that to all of them. And then what I always recommend is that you do some stretching on the string for a second so that it really works in there. And it works really like a charm. Now, it costs $13 or whatever for a little tube of this. But you can make something that's at least as good as that stuff at home, maybe out of things you already have. So if you've got powdered graphite or you've got some pencil lead, you just crunch it up and mix it into some Vaseline, a little globule of Vaseline. So globule is the word of the day, apparently. So that's why I have this little cardboard, so I can dip out the tiniest little bit of this. It takes so little to do all 6 strings. So I just smear some on there, and then if I wanted to, if I needed to do this with a pencil, I just kind of crush up some of the lead and put it in there. But I'll use this for now since it's handy. So I'll just kind of dump a little bit of that powdered graphite there and smear it together and make a good little kind of pasty substance. Okay, so I don't think you can really see that, but here, I guess you can. And I would take that and do the same thing. So I go to the next string, and then just dab it in there. It's kind of nasty, so you have to be careful with it so you don't make a big mess. But pop the string back down on top of it, do the same thing I was talking about earlier with the commercial version. It's exactly the same effect. And really, that combination works the very best for me. So if I'm having a lot of trouble with any particular guitar, that's where I go first, is to just mix my own little concoction of Vaseline and powdered graphite. And again, for years and years, I just did it with pencils. I would just crush up the lead that was in a pencil in there and mix it together. And then eventually I was at the checkout at a Home Depot, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, that could make this a lot easier, and just buy that tube. But anyway, point being, though, that way of doing this works better to me, for me anyway, than any commercial product. But because sometimes I'm in a hurry, I just grab this, and that's why I have this, and I can throw this in my guitar case and take it on a gig in case I have to change strings there. Now, another thing about this is usually you don't have to do this every time you change strings, but maybe do it every once in a while. You know, once every other string change or something like that. You could even do the powdered graphite without the Vaseline mixed together, but it works best with the Vaseline, and it kind of helps it stay, and it's a little bit more controllable when you apply it. Now, another thing about that, though, is that when you make this concoction, it's really kind of nasty, so it's real easy to smear it all over things or whatever. So you have to be kind of careful, and then maybe wipe off any excess, because it'll end up everywhere. Now, the chapstick, now I got this idea straight out of a book, and I'll show you this book here. It's Guitar and Amp Maintenance, Complete Guide to Guitar and Amp Maintenance by Richie. I don't know if it's Flagler or Fligler. I don't know which way to pronounce it, but it's published by Hal Leonard. This book is really great if you just kind of need something, a handbook to keep around. But I think this is where I got the idea for this chapstick, and maybe some of the other concepts too here. The chapstick is actually, it's good if you have the old school string tree on a Strat. You can kind of put a little bit under there and run the string through it, and that'll kind of help keep it from the string from getting hung at that point as well. And then down on the now I know I got this from that book as well, like the 3-in-1 oil. Any place that things could possibly move and get stuck, you could try that as well. But they recommend it on the bridge. That really hasn't been a big deal for me. And on these newer string trees on Strats that are just like two little it's like a barbell sticking out. They really work well without hanging the string up most of the time, so I haven't really had much trouble with that in recent years. The main thing to me about Strats is the nut, and then the other thing is make sure you use the tremolo. If you want to use it on a gig, you're going to have to use it some in general, because things that are made to move, if you don't move them, they tend to get kind of rickety and stuck, and then when you do move them around, they're just not gonna work anymore, or they're not gonna work like they're supposed to, and they'll just get stuck and be real janky about coming back in tune. And it's, the next thing maybe would be that make sure that everything is kind of set up in a proper fashion. I like my 3 springs in there. I don't really need more than that, and because I do like to use the tremolo, and I like to have them just parallel. People have different preferences, but if it's set up okay, I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities, and it still will work. But again, main thing is the nut. Make sure that is that you keep the nut properly lubricated, and I can just hear the commentary and the LOLs now about lubricating the nut. But it makes a big difference, and I've had so many people look at me like, yeah, big deal about that, you know, when they were having trouble staying in tune, and they just kind of didn't believe that that's all it was. And so many times, 99% of the time, uh, it solved the problem immediately. So make sure you do that. It's just it's a simple thing that'll make a huge difference. Now, all those same things apply to Gibson guitars, because especially the ones that have the more severe the angle is. I think these are 17 degrees on this type Les Paul. Maybe it's around 14 or something on the, like the one back there is 70s, or actually early 80s, but it has that little bit less angle. But even on that, the strings don't go straight through like they do on a Strat to the post. They turn, and they're also being held at a pretty strong downward angle. Now that's great for sustain, for open string sustain, and just kind of being really true. But it's not good for bending, because that makes a lot of pressure there. So when you bend it, if there's some friction there, it's going to act just like pulling up on a tremolo and then letting go and having it get hung up. So all the things that I said about making the Strat stay in tune, when it comes to the nut, exactly the same stuff. With a Les Paul or any Gibson that has the tilted headstock, you don't have the string tree problem, but you do have a severe amount of pressure on the nut. Now again, I don't ever like locking tuners on Gibsons. I know a lot of people love them, but I don't know, I'm kind of old school. I don't really even like them on the Strat, but I do it because it's really kind of quick for changing strings, and you're already kind of battling the tremolo. If you break a string on a gig, you've got to kind of quickly balance things and get it running again. But I'm a big fan of the standard tuning pegs, and I never have trouble with tuning, staying in tune because of those pegs. The main thing is that if they start to wear out, then you probably do have to replace them. These have been replaced recently because they got really loose over time, and you couldn't make them really reliable. And it wasn't that they were letting go of the string; it was easy. If you just bumped it at all, they would go out of tune. But if you wind the strings properly onto the post, and there's lots of instruction out there, probably you could look up for that, but just try not to put too many windings on the post. And then also make sure they all kind of go down. Now with Strats, if you want to keep that pressure really low on the nut, you could do like one under and one over, or one over and one under, so that you don't have too much down pressure on the nut. But nevertheless, if you do a nice clean job of winding the strings on there, make sure everything is nothing's binding in some weird way, some other place on the guitar, it should stay in tune. But the whole thing is really centered around, is the nut causing a problem with catching the string. One last thing I did want to mention, though, is on the guitars with locking tremolos. A lot of times people get into these and they think, well, I'll never have tuning problems again. Well, there's a lot of strange problems that can come up. For one thing, you have to kind of understand the balance if you've got a floating tremolo anyway. When you tighten a string, the others go flat and that kind of stuff. But once you get it in tune, if everything is working properly, it should stay in tune. But the common places I find problems, and none of these things are going to solve it, is that as the guitar gets older, you've used it a lot, and you've taken the strings on and off, you've replaced them a lot, and had to take the clamps off a bunch of times. They get grooves in them, kind of worn in, and they get where they don't really hold the string down as well as they used to. So what I always do, even when the guitar is kind of young, I start just rotating a quarter turn. So you'll see the grooves when you take the little clamps off on the underside where the string has been. I just rotate them one time over so that it's sort of cross-hatching every time I put new strings on. And that makes the nut always kind of reliable. The other thing that happens on these, though, as they get older, is that the little knife edge that cuts into the post there, if it's really sharp and perfect and there's no flaws at all, it'll stay in tune great. When you let go, it'll come right back. But over time, that edge kind of digs in, and the post and the knife edge start to damage each other, and eventually it'll get where it doesn't really come back. When you push down and let go, it stays a little flat, or if you pull up and let go, it stays a little sharp. If that happens to the bridge, then usually you're going to have to replace a part or two to make that work out. So these kinds of things don't really help out there. Okay, so I hope that some of those tips are helpful for you, and please give them a try if you haven't. I've encountered so many people, even very experienced musicians, who really don't realize how much that will help and how much frustration it will alleviate in your life if you just make sure that on any guitar that has a friction problem at the nut, that it's properly lubricated. Every time you change strings, or at least maybe every other time, it'll change your life. So I hope that helps you out, and if you want to see more videos like this and you like this one, click like, hit subscribe, and come on back, and I'll see you soon.